Who decides what the world eats? Not the farmers, not the ministries of agriculture. The real power sits with 4 companies, Bayer, Corteva, Syngenta, and BASF, that control the genetics, the chemicals, and increasingly the data behind modern farming. They don't just sell seeds, they own the playbook. According to recent industry analyses, these 4 giants collectively dominate 56% of the global seeds market, with Bayer alone accounting for 23% of that share, underscoring their overwhelming influence on agricultural inputs worldwide. This concentration has profound implications for food systems, pricing dynamics, and innovation pathways. 1. The map of power. From fields to IP. For most of human history, a seed was a gift you could keep, replant, and share. Today it's an intellectual property license. Decades of consolidation turned 4 firms into gatekeepers. Bayer Crop Science absorbed Monsanto, GM traits, herbicide-tolerant crops, global corn, soy dominance. In the U.S., Bayer controls a significant portion of the market, contributing to the duo with Corteva that holds 72% of corn seed sales and 66% of soybean seed sales. Corteva Agriscience, spun from DowDuPont, hybrid corn and soybean royalty machine, deep distribution into North America and LATAM. As a dedicated agriculture player, Corteva commands around 17% of the global seed market, bolstered by its pioneer brand and extensive R&D investments. Syngenta Group, under Chem China, Sinochem umbrella, powerful in crop protection plus seeds, expanding across Asia. Syngenta's seed business generates substantial revenue, though it trails Bayer and Corteva in key segments like corn and soybeans, with combined sales in those areas less than half of the leaders. BASF Agricultural Solutions acquired divested seed lines, strong in chemistries, e.g., glufosinate, plus select seeds. BASF aims to increase its seed revenue share from about 22% to 25% in the coming years, focusing on expansion in Asia and global markets. Result: high concentration in commercial seed markets, major row crops especially, strong pricing power, and a moat built on patents plus distribution plus farmer lock-in. Recent USDA reports highlight this dominance, estimating that 95% of U.S. corn intellectual property and 84% of soybean IP are controlled by these 4 companies, a level of consolidation that has intensified since the early 2000s. This market structure not only limits competition but also shapes global trade flows, as these firms influence seed availability in emerging markets like Latin America and Asia, where adoption of their technologies is accelerating. 2. Why farmers can't just save seed. 2 mechanisms convert nature into a subscription. 1. Hybrid seeds, F1. Hybrids deliver yield and uniformity in the first generation. But their second generation, F2, splits genetically, yield drops, traits scatter. It's biology, but it's also business. Farmers must buy fresh seed each season to keep performance. Globally, hybrid seeds have driven significant yield increases, but at a cost. U.S. soybean seed expenses, for instance, have risen 260% since 1997, far outpacing overall production cost increases of 157%. 2. Patents and license contracts. With GM edited traits, firms own the genetic code. Seed bags come with no replant clauses. Saving harvested grain to resow becomes a contract breach and a legal risk. The enforcement record is real. The message is clear. The genetics are licensed, not owned. Adoption of GM seeds is near saturation in key regions, with over 90% of U.S. corn acres planted with herbicide-tolerant varieties in 2024, reinforcing this dependency model. Net effect. What used to be a self-renewing input is now a recurring purchase, predictable revenue for the seed company, less autonomy for the farm. This shift has contributed to annualized seed cost growth of 6-7% since 2000, aligning closely with revenue increases for these companies but straining farmer budgets in volatile commodity markets. In developing regions, this model can exacerbate inequalities, as smallholders face barriers to accessing affordable open-pollinated alternatives. 3. The bundle. Seeds plus chemicals plus recommended practices. This is the profit engine. Trait chemistry pairing. Herbicide-tolerant crops, e.g., glyphosate-tolerant soy, glufosinate-tolerant stacks, are designed to work with the same company's weed killers. These pairings have become ubiquitous, with GM crops covering over 190 million hectares globally in 2024, driving chemical sales alongside seeds. Stacked traits. Insect resistance plus herbicide tolerance plus stress traits equals performance premium and royalty layers. Prescription farming. Labels, rates, and timing guide you back to the house brand. The agronomy, best practice, is often a commercial pathway. For the corporate P&L, the logic is beautiful. Seeds sell once per season, chemicals sell multiple times per season, and both are protected by IP plus agronomic scripts. For the farmer, input costs rise but operational risk can drop if yields and reliability improve. The margin belongs to the firm that writes the recipe. Industry-wide, this bundling has propelled the global seeds market to a value of $70.94 billion in 2025, projected to grow at a 7.6% CAGR through 2029, fueled by these integrated systems. However, this integration also raises antitrust concerns, as evidenced by ongoing regulatory scrutiny in multiple jurisdictions. 4. The new moat. Farm data and digital agronomy. Seeds and sprays aren't the only lock-ins anymore. The giants now sell platforms. Satellite plus in-field sensors plus yield maps, variable rate prescriptions for seed density and chemical rates, disease, weed pressure alerts and product recommendations. If your 3 to 5 years of farm data lives inside Vendor X's platform, and your equipment is calibrated to Vendor X's seed density and herbicide packages, switching costs explode. Data becomes behavioral glue, turning agronomy into a walled garden. As digital tools proliferate, they capture an estimated 10–15% additional value from precision agriculture, layering onto seed and chemical revenues. This data-driven approach is particularly potent in high-adoption regions like North America, where over 90% of major crops incorporate GM traits, amplifying the ecosystem's stickiness. Emerging technologies like AI-optimized planting further entrench these platforms, making them indispensable for modern operations. 5. Unit economics. Why Wall Street loves seeds. High fixed, low variable. R&D and trait development are expensive up front, but once a trait is approved and stacked, marginal costs plunge. For example, the seed technologies market is projected to grow from $9.35 billion in 2025 to $14.50 billion by 2030 at a 9.2% CAGR, reflecting these scalable economics. Royalty rivers. Traits licensed into partner brands throw off high-margin royalties for years. Recurring cadence. Annual seed purchase plus in-season chemical repurchases equals subscription-like cash flow. Farmer adoption inertia. Once a farm calibrates planters, sprayers, and rotations to a system, churn stays low unless pricing or performance breaks. Risks exist. Litigation, e.g., herbicide lawsuits, regulatory shifts, approvals, gene editing rules, resistance, weeds, insects adapt, and antitrust scrutiny, but the structural economics remain attractive. Investors particularly value the stability, as evidenced by the agricultural biotechnology market's growth projections, with key players like these four driving innovation in gene-edited solutions. 6. National security angle. Seed sovereignty. When four multinationals control most commercial traits, governments ask hard questions. Food security. Can a country feed itself if IP access is squeezed? With global GM crop areas mature at over 90% adoption in leading nations, dependency on these firms raises vulnerabilities. Local breeding capacity. Are public institutes and local firms being crowded out? Paying trade royalties in hard currency can be a structural outflow. Responses differ. Some nations court the giants for rapid yield gains and export competitiveness. Others push public breeding, local champions, or open-pollinated varieties in staples. Gene editing. CRISPR frameworks are loosening in some markets, potentially enabling nimbler local players, but patent thickets may simply shift, not disappear. In 2024, countries like the US maintained minimal restrictions on gene-edited crops, treating them as conventional, while the EU debated frameworks that could classify them differently, impacting market access. This regulatory divergence could foster regional innovation hubs, but it also risks fragmenting global standards. 7. Resistance, litigation, and the cost of complexity. Monocultures invite evolutionary pushback. Herbicide resistance. Superweeds demand new chemistries or stacked tolerance traits, raising costs. Globally, there are 535 unique cases of herbicide-resistant weeds, with resistant populations reducing yields by up to 50% or more in severe cases. Insect resistance. Refuge requirements and trait rotation add management complexity. Liability. Drift damage, patent disputes, and product safety lawsuits create headline and balance sheet risk for the giants, and uncertainty for farmers and neighbors. The industry's answer is predictable: more R&D, more stacks, more precision. That usually means higher average selling prices and deeper system lock-in. Recent surveys indicate herbicide-resistant weeds now affect 72% of surveyed fields in key regions, spanning an estimated 6.2 million hectares, highlighting the escalating challenge. Emerging solutions like CRISPR-edited resistance traits offer promise, but their deployment depends on evolving regulations. 8. The ABCD connection, from seed to shipping. Remember the grain trader episode? Here's the closed loop. Seeds, the genetics and IP, to chemicals, the protection and regimen, to data platforms, the operating system, to grain traders. ABCD, handle storage, logistics, export pricing and hedging. Control upstream genetics and you influence downstream bushels, their quality, timing, and even contract terms. It's not a conspiracy, it's vertical economics. This integration is amplified by the seed market's projected growth to $99.94 billion by 2030 at a 5.39% CAGR, linking upstream control to broader supply chain dominance. 9. Investor lens. What to watch. Moat durability. Patent cliffs versus new traits. How sticky is the data platform? Regulatory drift. Gene editing fast lanes, lighter rules, could invite new entrants, or trigger new patent wars. In 2024, CRISPR applications in agriculture expanded, with global markets for gene-edited seeds forecasted to grow at 10.4% CAGR through 2029. Resistance curve. Are weeds, pests outpacing the stack roadmap? With over 30 glyphosate-resistant species in the US alone, this remains a critical risk factor. Litigation and ESG, chemistry liabilities, biodiversity pressure, smallholder narratives. Localization. Rise of regional breeders in rice, pulses, millets, public-private hybrids. Investors should monitor emerging markets, where organic seed segments are growing at 6.2% CAGR to $480 million by 2025. 10. The company's defense. And the trade-off. Seed giants say they feed more people with fewer inputs, higher yields, less tillage, more drought tolerance, better carbon math. Much of that is true in many systems, as evidenced by the 3% annual growth in global primary crop production to 9.9 billion tons. Innovations like CRISPR-edited crops are accelerating this, with regulatory approvals in places like the US allowing faster commercialization without mandatory safety assessments for non-transgenic edits. But the trade-off is stark: efficiency and consistency in exchange for dependence and concentration of power. The question isn't whether yields improved, the question is who captures the surplus and who sets the rules. As consolidation continues, with ongoing mergers and acquisitions in 2024-2025 reducing brand options in over 20 US states, the balance between innovation and equity will define the sector's future. From the outside, a seed is a tiny promise. From the inside, it's a contract, one that can't be saved, must be repurchased, and works best with a company's chemical and digital stack. That's not an accident, that's the business model. So next time you hear food security, ask a deeper question. Who owns the genetics that make food possible? And what happens when 4 companies write the terms? Stay curious, stay sharp.